What is up, fellas, and welcome to another episode of PolitiGoob with me, the Goob. Last week's episode was all about highlighting just how bad things are, how bad things have been for a while, and trying to get you primed to think about how bad things are going to get in the future. And, part of the point of me bringing up some of the older examples of things, going back 15 years with the rape statistics in England is to get you to think about the fact that, like, did you know that was happening 15 years ago? I mean, 15 years ago, did you know that was happening? Did you even know it was happening now? And if the answer to either of those are no, then like you probably don't realize just how bad things are. They're probably far worse than you actually think. And also, it's like, if someone came to you at the beginning of COVID and told you everything that was about to happen, one, would you have listened to them? Would you have believed them? And two, if you did, what would you have done differently? Right? Because that's what I'm doing here is I'm telling you what we're heading towards. We are heading towards a total technocratic, state where we have social credit systems where if you are the victim of a crime, you are punished, where the actual violent perpetrators get released, get rewarded. Your bank account gets shut down if you say a no word. You are literally legally banned from jobs. That's already happening in Virginia right now. A very real conversation that can happen in Virginia is, hey, I would like to do this job for you. Oh, well, we can't hire you because you're a white male. They're like, what? That's illegal. That's discrimination. They're like, actually, it would be illegal to hire you. So I'm just trying to get you to think about where we already are and where we're heading and what are you going to do about that? It's a very serious question because this is an existential threat. The left is at war with us. The Muslims are at war with us. If we do not start taking action, the future that is before us is the destruction of Western society and the genocide of the white race. We are already in the beginning stages of a genocide of the white race, and it will only escalate. So I really want to have you guys call in. I posted the link in the chat and in the description. Please call in because, again, I'm just talking to a screen here, right? I don't get all that much feedback from just talking to a screen. And so I've desperately been, asking people to do something, do anything. Literally, I promoted, go out and argue that Vanilla Ice is a better rapper than Eminem, just to try and prime you for, handling conflict, because you're going to have to get used to conflict. I'm not out here telling people to go do a school shooting, but that is the type of response I get, when I say these things, when I'm asking for literally the bare minimum, Vanilla Ice versus Eminem, the responses I get are like, well, just go do a school shooting, Fed posting, or like, what are you doing? I lived in Washington during COVID and I was very active. I've been this way for a very long time. I've started speaking since Charlie because we've reached the tipping point, the point of no return, where if action is not taken, we're done for. And I really hoped and incorrectly hoped that Charlie would be a wake-up call for people and that people actually would start having an appropriate response, but they haven't. So again, please call in. I genuinely want to have a conversation with you guys. Like, if there's something in your head where like you still think it's not appropriate to take action, like, talk to me. Let's talk about that. Let's work through this. Share your thoughts, share your opinions. And in the meantime, while I wait for calls, I am going to do the same thing I did last week, but I really do want your calls. Please call in. So this clip I meant to show last week and I didn't, so I'm going to show it now. This is Trump at the State of the Union. Pay attention to this. This is a massive, massive moment in history that I feel like kind of got glossed over. And you already should have known this. They've already made this very obvious. But if it wasn't obvious enough already, here are the Democrats openly stating that they are against you and for illegal immigrants. Someone's calling in. I'm going to play this, and then I'll take Slav's call. Hopefully you can hear the audio. I know there was no audio last week. I changed the setup. I think it should work today.
If you agree with this statement, then stand up and show your support. The first duty of the American government is to protect American citizens, not illegal aliens.
I think John Fetterman was the only Democrat that stood there. Again, they are openly saying that they support illegal invaders over the American citizens. And then there was this other clip, which I did play last week without the audio. Let me play it with the audio. Let me rewind it. So again, they truly do hate you. They truly do want you dead. I wasn't sharing that screen. My bad. Whatever. I'm going to go ahead and take Slav's call. But what I just played was them saying that American citizens are the worst of the worst, and we need to get illegal immigrant cops to protect the illegal immigrants from the worst of the worst, which are the American citizens. Slav, how's it going, buddy? You're on stage now. Yep, I can hear it.
Hey, yeah, it's all this perfect timing of Trump gets elected, which everyone knew would happen. He chooses Hegseth, and then they kick out all the fags and freaks and queers and trannies from the military. They change all their recruitment standards to basically just get white dudes.
And then go to war in the Middle East.
Yeah.
Yes, no, 100%. You know, and I have a fantastic. Hold your phone still, Slav. I don't know why you're always raping your phone when you call in, but just hold it still.
That better?
That's much better, yes.
Yeah, so it's the same way how in Europe they are. It's on France and Germany start shoring up their domestic hospitals and start hiring nurses, and it's like, and then all the ads now that only show white people for the military recruitment. It's it's just it's everything that people have been saying, and now what is it? Everyone, like, how Danny has always been saying, like, oh, that my whole thing of, oh, it's Jews importing all these Muslims and Africans into the West. But I mean, their defense minister in Israel, what's his name? Itmar Ben-Gvir, the Israel security minister. Some of their foreign ministers and even rabbis are openly bragging about on the camera, in television, in crowds that they are making sure that Muhammad will be the most popular name in Europe and in the UK. And
That's the thing is, like, you can just listen to what these people say. They tell you pretty openly what their goals are, and their goals are the destruction of Western nations and the white race. This is coming from leftists, from Muslims, from Jews, from blacks. Yeah, it's not a secret, and it's insane to me how many people are still in denial of this when the patterns are so clear, when it's not even hidden, it's out in the open. I have a question for you, Slav, though, because you seem to agree, we seem to be relatively on the same page of what's happening and what's going to be happening. So what do you think should be done about this? What do you personally, what are you going to be doing? How are you trying to resist this? Or even in an ideal, if you're not doing it yet, like, what do you think should be done?
Well, I mean, what's going to be happening is, literally, look what happened to Rhodesia. Look what happened to South Africa. I mean,
okay,
what Curtis Jarvin was saying, like, I guess, like, a few weeks ago, is like, he's like saying, the American doesn't really understand or has seen total mass migration, like on the levels of, because we've always been accustomed to seeing, beaners coming from the south. That's just something that we've been used to for decades. But the levels upon which just the influx and deluge that you see in England and France and Spain and Italy, it's like literally
Right.
just invasions upon beaches, the Camp Saints type level stuff.
100%.
I
Yeah,
mean, in
no, so I
Texas, we already
agree
see
that
it
is where
legally.
we are
But in
heading.
terms of
Right,
what I'm gonna do, I wouldn't say openly what I'm gonna do, but what's gonna happen is basically it's going to be the same way how in 2021 and 2022 you saw all these leftists leave their blue states with their lockdowns and come to all these red states. Now it's going to be the people like me who do realize what is going to happen and can't be stopped, going from urban areas and trying to find the most desolate parts.
okay,
And
so let me interrupt you here there. So we agree on what's coming, right? I agree that is absolutely the direction we're headed. We're headed towards South Africa. Like that is unfortunately the reality. Now you just said something very interesting, which seems to be a prevailing mindset on the right, which is that like it can't be stopped. You already said that like it's a foregone conclusion that we're heading towards South Africa, we're heading towards Rhodesia, and you
both
just said it can't be
sides.
stopped. So hold on. So we agree on where we're heading and what is inevitable if action isn't taken. What I don't understand from the right is why they seem to have the mindset that like action can't be taken until we get to that point. Why would you allow, if you know that's what's coming, why would you just sit there and allow that to come and wait for that to come and then wait for that moment, the moment where the
Because
deck is stacked the most against you
the
in order to
right,
take action? I would like to prevent that from happening. I would like to stop that from happening. And I fully believe that there is a path to that, but the path is absolutely not inaction.
because the right is all pussies, bro. They've
They
always been
are.
that.
So I'm
Yeah,
trying to change that.
it's not like they're one. It's not gonna be changed. I mean, one obviously
It
the
is something that
influence.
can change, but
Well,
not with
first
that
off,
kind of attitude.
what is it? First off, you were gonna have to break the yoke of the influence of the Jew, because this whole double speak of, oh, we're conservatives, we would never stoop to the level of bigots and hatred. It's like bigotry and hatred is how communities have always survived in
Right.
exclusion.
And so are you,
And then,
Slav, I feel like you probably are, but like, are you espousing these sentiments publicly in your own life? I feel like you might be one of the few that it is.
I mean, the most that I do is like I will be like, bro, you speak English. Like, okay, then get somebody who speaks English. Oh, why are you saying that I'm the problem? You're the one who can't, like, at businesses like that. But I don't really frequent that many places for business. I'm not going around spending my money all willy nilly left and right. I usually just spend it on food. That's it. But
Right. And this is,
the problem
this
is,
is
what is going to happen is, with businesses, it's there will be, like Drew was saying in the comments, he's like, he can refuse service at he can refuse a private person service just based on, like, oh, they have this kind of flag flying. It's like, I'm not going to deal with them. And then what's going to happen is, well, that person, God forbid they find out that's why, they're like, they could start leaving reviews, or there will be companies being like, how it is in South Africa, where it's like, you don't have enough colors on your board of trustees or in charge of your company, we can't let you operate as a business. And then all the businesses who ignore this stuff, they will be targeted, and they will be targeted by both the left and the right. The right will be the ones dragging them to court. The left will be the ones, in their power, actually sending dudes dressed up like, you're gonna have a business violation. They're gonna be sending in damn near SWAT. The right would just
Right.
be sending you court summons until you get sued out the ass by a whole team of Jews.
So again, this is happening because the Overton window is shifting left. It has been for decades now. And the reason the Overton window is shifting to the left is because who is the loudest, who is the most active? It is the people on the left. I've shown a few times that clip of the girl not attacking, but like openly mocking that other kid in high school. And it's like, it's common sense to me, and it's surprisingly difficult to actually explain in a way that makes it common sense to other people. But like, those are the types of actions that shift that Overton window. The fact that a weak little female child is comfortable accosting a man like that is indicative of just how much the Overton window has shifted, and it's also shifting it further. And so those types of actions are very important. And that's the type of thing that on a daily level in your personal life can be incorporated into your actions, where you are openly mocking these visibly leftist people, where you are standing up for people who are getting mocked and attacked and accosted by the left, where you're incorporating those types of things into your daily life to shift that Overton window back to the right. Like, everything you just described isn't inaccurate, right? But it's that way exactly because the right is so insistent on keeping their head down, on staying silent, on not resisting, on not fighting back. And so we've allowed things to get to this point where it genuinely is dangerous and risky to push back now, because there are, pulled up in my tabs here, I've got many examples of like kids saying that the immigrants are scum and they go to jail, right? Things like that. So I get why there's hesitation to push back, but you need to understand the very fundamental truth that if you don't start pushing back now, again, I've said this several times, it's like it would have been easier to resist yesterday than it is today, and it'll be easier to resist today than it will be tomorrow. Why is the right insistent on waiting until things get to the point where there is just like mass murder of white people to then be like, hey, now it's time to stand up? And that doesn't come, right? Like, that never comes. There has to be a gradual building of this action, and you build that by doing those small things, like confronting a leftist openly and publicly, by loudly and proudly espousing your patriotism and your right-wing beliefs, and not cowering from them and not keeping them silent. It's there. If you just keep practicing keeping your head down while things get worse, there's never going to be a point where you magically all stand up and start fighting back. These things build gradually. And if we don't start building that resistance now by doing those small actions, go out and get comfortable with those small actions by arguing that Vanilla Ice is better than M&M, right? But like, you have to start doing this now, because it only gets more and more difficult as it goes on. And then the reality that we actually end up in is everyone's kept their head down until you get to the point where you do have death squads showing up at your front door. And at that point, it's too fucking late.
Yeah, I mean, the problem is those who aren't in office, because the right will like a Republican politician would, quicker than a drop of a hat, stand shoulder to shoulder with a Democrat to to disavow somebody who's voted for him because that voter said something mean. It's like, well, he's like, oh, this Republican will say, I reach across party lines and we will make a bipartisan effort to stamp out hatred, because
100%. And so again, the way that you solve that right now, like electing.
What I think is going to have to, the last thing that could happen is it's going to have to happen with this, because it's for those who are really uninformed with the true apocalyptic satanic intention of the Jew and this war in the Middle East that is literally a war. It's going to have to wake up literally there are boomer magatards who are they're starting to burn their flags, rip off their bumper stickers, being like, they're starting to realize there are there are a few evangelicals who are starting to realize, holy shit, I have been brainwashed, and this is my moment to like escape this Jew matrix that they have over
Right.
my brain.
So 2 points here.
Something like unfortunately terrible is going to have to happen in the Middle East, where
Dude,
a
terrible
lot of
things are happening every day.
I
There
know,
is
no,
no.
but
It's
in
very
terms,
important to understand there is no magic line that once it's crossed, everyone wakes up. That simply isn't how it works. Every single possible line that could be crossed has been crossed, and it will continue to be crossed. And there will never be a magic moment where people wake up and go, "Oh, this is awful." It just doesn't work like that. These things happen gradually. You have to start building these actions now. So 2 points: Republicans versus Democrats, right? Like so. Electing a Republican generally is going to be better than electing a Democrat. But in the grand scheme of things, like you were saying, they are on the same side. They are working for the same goal. And as you were saying that, like a Republican will condemn people who are actually doing the things that I'm suggesting, that I'm asking for, right? And that is like if you want a government that will actually do what's necessary to fix things, if you want a government that's going to be more receptive to those types of hostilities and those types of actions from their constituents, you have to start taking those actions, right? Again, the Overton window shifts to the left because the left are the most radical, they're the most vocal, they're the ones that are willing to go cause shit and cause conflict and fight people over their beliefs. Meanwhile, all of this horrible shit is happening, and what does the right do? Nothing. Here, I've got a tab pulled up somewhere.
I'll tell you what
Let me
the
real
most
quick,
recent,
because
the
here,
most
here, this tab right here. Hold on, take a look at this tab right here. I need to switch. So this is the Canadian
I'm
shooting, the
familiar.
trans shooting, right? That happened. This little girl dies. This 12-year-old girl dies, and they try and have a funeral for her. And these insane trannies start sending so many death threats that the state is like, it is not safe for you to have this funeral. You cannot mourn your little girl. So, you know, uh, like the radicals are the ones who shape society, and the radicals are entirely on the left. And this is as horrible as it can get, right? And yet there's no response from the right. So if you want a government that is actually going to take action against these people, that is actually going to do things to solve things, who's not going to condemn the people that are fighting to preserve this country, you need to start fighting to preserve this country, right? There is no scenario which doesn't lead to suffering and violence and bad things happening, right? But if you weigh the options are wait until total Western destruction and white genocide, at which point it's too late and there's nothing that you can do, or start making those uncomfortable decisions, taking those uncomfortable actions, and maybe you do suffer some consequences, unfortunately, but they will be lesser than if you wait. And it will be, I get it's scary, I get it's intimidating, but this mindset of just accepting genocide as a foregone conclusion and waiting for it to happen silently is literally the dumbest thing you could ever possibly do.
It is. And another thing with the Republicans, I mean, this is already what's happening in Canada, where they have, I mean, this whole, like, you can't, the reality is voting is not, you can't vote yourself out of problems. But
No, again, because we don't even have the candidates that
yeah,
want to solve the problems. We have candidates that want to
what it
further
is,
the problems.
it's
So if
worse
you
than
want
that.
candidates,
It's
if
gotten
you
worse
want to
than
be able to vote your way out of this, if you want candidates that will actually solve the problems, you have to make your. So when this happened, right? Does the government have any reason to actually do anything about this? No, because the right doesn't do anything about this. The people don't do anything about this. As the government continues to terrorize their citizens and release criminals, the literal baby murderers who walk out of jail free is happening on like a weekly, nearly daily basis. And there's no reason for the government to stop doing those things because the right is not doing anything about those things. You have people in the left willing to die and kill in the streets to protect baby murderers and rapists, but the right just does nothing. So the government has no reason to push to the right. They only have reason to push to the left. Like, this is a very fundamental thing. This is, I feel like this is not a complicated idea that I'm putting forward here, right? If horrible shit like this happens, if horrible shit like an illegal immigrant murders a baby happens and then walks free out of jail, you know, the government has no reason to change that behavior when the left are the ones screaming for more of it and the right just sits there silently. If you want these things to change, you have to be vocal, you have to be visible, you have to be active, you have to stop cowering, you have to stop staying silent, you have to stop hiding, you have to stop keeping your head down, and you have to become the radical few that changed the Overton window. There was, you know, the Milgram experiment and all of these social experiments. They prove that basically
Well, the
most
problem
people
is
don't have
the
souls. Most people are
biggest
cheap. Most people will follow orders.
the, pro-
Most people will follow the authority, no matter what it is, no matter how
the
insane it is.
scariest the
People aren't
scariest part.
capable of thinking for themselves. So the people that shape the world are the 20% of people that actually do have agency. And those are the people that I'm trying to reach. I'm trying to reach the people that have agency and help them reach more people that have agency and start building this movement and this action towards
So
correcting things before we get to the point of just open genocide and you
so
know.
with two things. Okay, so the scariest part about the Milgram experiment is that uh, obedience was evident in 54% of men, and it was 100% in women.
That sounds about right.
Well, that's because
And think of the
women,
feminization of men since then. That number only
what,
goes up as people become
yeah,
more
what women.
estrogenized and feminized and soy boy.
What is it? Women are just naturally programmed to be conformist and do things that fit in with the crowd. Because if you fit in with the crowd, it's safer.
Right. This is what I was describing in my early episodes repeatedly, where I'm saying most people just want to get home from work without getting yelled at or punched in the face. And so most people, women especially, right, they understand that the safe side is the left side because they know they're the ones that are willing to yell at them and punch them in the face. And so that is what they become. Same with the soy boys. And so if you want that to change, you have to start becoming more radicalized. You have to start being willing to scream in people's faces. And when they get violent with you, get more violent back with them. You know, I was asked, how do we solve the women problem on another podcast? And power dynamics, which is, again, what all of my earlier episodes were focused on, is how you fix the women problem. The power dynamics, being active, being vocal, being aggressive, being hostile. Okay. These you're never going to solve the soy boys, you're never going to solve the women problems, you're never going to solve the government, you're never going to get a government that will solve problems for you until you start fighting to take back control of these power dynamics. And you do that by these interactions in the real world, not on the internet. You fucking confront people. It's really is that simple. But the right has this block where they either go, we do nothing, we keep our heads down and do nothing, or we commit, mass murder, civil war. And
Well,
that is if that's the dichotomy you're stuck in, you will be genocided. Your children will be raped, their graves will be pissed on, you'll be thrown in jail for it. Like, that is
we're gonna have to see.
the only way out is start getting comfortable with hostility and confrontation.
We will. So, one little glimmer of hope, and I have my reservations about it, but the governor's race in Florida with this Tyler Fishback guy.
Is that the guy who shot his daughter's kidnapper?
No. That I think that happened. No, that guy was running for sheriff. No,
He's running for, I think, mayor or governor. One of those.
No. The governor's race in Florida is between this colored fella, who's a big Jew supporter, Byron Donalds, the name like that, and then this guy Tyler Fishback. And Tyler he's got like the biggest way he got pushed on through social media was I don't want to say pandering, but everything he says is like what gets groypers hard. Like, he is like a very America first. He's like he says a lot of like very conveniently.
Okay, get to the point, Slav.
Oh yeah. So what if he gets elected, which I'm seeing that like he has a lot of support, but I think they'll try and pull some tricks because he's been very anti-Zionist. But one of his things is like policies that will push for like reintroducing traditional stuff where it's like syntaxes for being, like being basically stuff targeted at women where it's like if you want to do the traditional thing of raising kids and staying with that man and making healthy households, the state will be helping you with that and ensuring that you can continue to do that. But if you're going to be a woman and you're going to be doing OnlyFans, we're taxing you half of that shit, and we don't give a fuck if we can't let government impede on our private business. He's like, this is your private business, and what you do is a decay on morality, and you should. I'm surprised you haven't heard of Fishback, but I have.
Okay, what's the point here though?
If he can get elected and start to do what he wants to do, that he's been saying that he wants to do, that can push other red states to start getting candidates, being like, oh, hey, they got him elected. I'm trying to do the same as him. Don't be scared because I'm not taking Jew money. I'm speaking out against this and that. It's
right. No, that's a good thing, and I think the guy who shot his daughter's kidnapper, who I believe is currently in jail, but also just won the Republican primary. I think that's maybe an even better example. And yes, those things are good, right? But again, the government is not without you saving yourself first, right? Like I what you're saying isn't incorrect, but if you're just counting on the government to solve these things, again, you're going to be genocided. Western civilization is going to die. Like, you have to build an environment where your government where someone even can run on those platforms, right? Like right now, someone running on those platforms, they will be openly attacked by the left. They'll have smear campaigns. They'll have all of these things. They'll have lawfare lobbied against them, right? And what does the right do in response? Nothing. The left, I've got another tab pulled up here about, some of the election things going on in Virginia. It's like, it's very open and blatant that they are attempting to cheat the elections. They're not even hiding this. They did it in 2020, very blatantly. It even happened in 2016.
Bro, Republicans can.
But the point I'm making is that they will only continue to cheat. They will only continue doing these things and get worse in doing these things as long as the right just accepts it and stays silent about it.
Republicans can't even what is it, Maryland father, who's still in the fucking news, being brought back and forth between America. We can't get a single dude whose name is all over the news once a month deported, but we can kidnap motherfuckers from Venezuela. We can get, dragged around by Israel to start a war in the Middle East, but we can't, we're like, the analogy with this whole mass deportation stuff is we're going to collect all 50 million ants one by one, and we're going to make sure termite appointed judges are going to approve their deport. It's like, what are we doing? If we can literally just have the whole world tell us we're illegally kidnapping world leaders and illegally starting wars, what are they going to bitch about if we legally start rounding up every single black and brown person who can't speak English?
But that's never going to happen until the right gives the government a reason to do so. Slav, thank you for calling in. I've got another caller that I'm going to take, but I appreciate the call, man. Thank you. All right. What's up, dog lover? I hope non-sexual. Okay, that's all right.
Consensual.
Good clarification, because I was about to question that. What's up, man?
What's up, doggy? Like I was saying, the left and right, who on the right would you say represents the right for you? In a way, at this point, they're on the right, it's the same agenda. At the end of the day, the same thing is going to happen. The same thing as 9/11. Yeah, it's just a delayed fuse with if you elect a Republican or a Democrat, the same thing is going to happen at the end of the day, maybe a year later, We're still going to go to war with this country. We're still going to have all these things pass. You know, it doesn't matter. The Republicans are just there as a fail-safe to make it seem like the populace has a vote, but you don't have a vote. You never have a vote.
But you could, right? So again, I agree 100% with everything you just said. And if you want that to change, if you want, a Republican or whatever it might be, that's actually going to represent your interests in government and is actually going to take the actions necessary, you have to give them a reason to do so. And the right has given absolutely no reason to do so. Again, the left is willing to fight and die to protect child rapists and murderers, and the right, that's the most insane, disgusting thing ever. And the right just sits there and takes it. They don't do anything about it. So if you want a government that's actually going to represent you, you have to give them a reason to, and we are giving them no reason to. We're just keeping our head down and staying silent.
But that's also the right just standing against something. They're not standing for anything. Instead of standing for limited government and less taxes on people and doing what the right used to do, now they're on the offensive, being like, we have to fight against this tranny troon shit, which that's not their agenda. You shouldn't be platforming yourself on fighting against the Democrats, because now you're just letting them win piece by piece, inch by inch, mile by mile. That's how we got to this place.
No,
now it's even here. This is insane. The Republicans aren't even Republicans anymore.
That's a pretty good point. And again, the solution is the same. It is not by hiding your beliefs. It's by being as loud and as bold with them as you can. Be radical. Be radical. That is
okay.
What I am.
I'm from California, and it's a Democratic state, right? But everybody I meet, it's a very few, like I was telling Slav in the chat, like, yeah, there are houses, you go to certain places, you see like the flag and you're like, well, fuck this guy. It's like 2 or 3 houses out of a whole neighborhood. And it's like, yeah, this one fucking asshole, until you go to certain cities, you're like, yeah, the half the neighborhood. Even then, even in Berkeley, you'll be like, half the neighborhood doesn't have the flags because they're like, no, and they don't like their neighbors. So there's still dichotomy to where it's like, even in California, I still say it's rigged for sure. The elections are rigged as shit because, dude, it is such a red state. When you meet people here, it is such a crazily red state. You're like, how is it even democratic at all? How do Democrats win? It doesn't make any sense.
Right.
They tried to recall Newsom and he rigged that shit.
Yes. So you just made another excellent point. And think about the tranny issue, right? It's like we had trannies dominate our society for years. Like literally, that's what was going on. And
I used to go to San Francisco and we'd laugh at them. It was a joke. They were known. They go to the Denny's with their sweatpants on. You see their dong and you'd be like, hey, look at the tranny. You'd laugh at them. You'd laugh at the guys picking them up. It was a thing. They called themselves trannies. Now you can't even call them trannies.
Here's the thing though, right? Is that those ideas, men and women's sports, men and women's bathrooms, things like that, the fact that we have to accept these visibly mentally ill people, like those were never majority issues. The majority never agreed with that. Even at its peak, it was always a majority that was against it. But the perception was that this is what was accepted in society. This is what everyone accepted. This is what is normal and what we must make normal and must accept. And the reason why, again, is because those things are determined by the radical minority that are the most vocal. And so there was this perception that everyone just accepted this, that this was, what everyone.
But they've turned that on you. So if you become the radical minority, now you're going to be the extremist, and they're going to turn that on you. And they have a historical reference. They call you a Nazi now. Just for saying you want to stand up for regular values of a society that was formed and established. You want to stand up for those regulations, and they say now you're the Nazi.
Yes, no, I get what you're saying, and you're not necessarily entirely wrong. But you have to understand, they call you a Nazi anyways. They already want you dead anyways. So, like,
allowing I've been called a Nazi my whole life, dude. Like,
Right.
I'm
So
actually like Aryan German, so like it's been not.
so
I was a
exactly.
little
So
kid called a Nazi
you've been getting called a Nazi your whole life. You can, the
before I
term
knew
just
what a Nazi was. Kids called me a
right.
Nazi because their parents told them what it was before I knew what it was as a little kid, and I was like, I had to ask my mom what it was. I was
Okay.
like, "What are Nazis?" And she
So
had to break
going
down the history of our family and how we're not related, but it's German heritage. You have to learn about it at some point.
So going back to one of the first points I made in the first political video I made, right? You have to stop being afraid of these labels. You have to stop
Yeah,
being afraid of those things. And it doesn't mean that there won't be consequences, but it does mean that if you continue to allow yourself to live in fear, the consequences will only get more and more and more and more severe. It'll only become more terrifying to become radicalized, to start fighting back. And so you have to stop, you have to discard that fear. In my very first episode, when I said, someone calls you a racist, someone calls you a Nazi, Sieg Heil, nigger, right? Like you
yeah,
can
I'm racial as shit.
they're already deeming you a Nazi simply for being white. They already want you dead simply for being white. Hiding from those labels and keeping your head down, that only makes the problem worse. And I keep saying the same thing because I keep encountering the same mental blocks in every single person I encounter. You, Slav, everyone. The right is stuck in this dichotomy of, oh, there might be consequences if I speak up, and so I have to stay silent. But that only makes the problem worse. The only way to shift things back is by getting active. It is by speaking up. It is by,
I think I
taking
speak
to
up
the
pretty
street
good.
and confronting these people and
I
being
try.
visible.
I don't encounter them often, but when I do, I kind of try. Like I was telling Slav, like when I see a house with a Ukraine flag, I'll call my boss and be like, dude, I'm canceling the job, dude. I don't want to do this fucking shit.
Good.
Fuck this.
That's exactly that is, and I mean, that's a
But
small thing,
it's a
right?
thing. Like there's a few of us who like we refuse to work at certain jobs where like if I see a flag on the dude's fucking window, I'm not working at the guy's house.
I legitimately want to hug you right now, man, because like these are the types of things, and that's not the only thing. There's a million different things you can do, right? But every little thing helps. And
No,
going
call
back to
another
the thing you
company,
said a
dude.
second ago, with the trannies being like viewed as the majority view when it was always the minority view, right? It's like you're talking about how California,
Hey, get a
everyone
tranny
needs
to do
white
work on your
people,
house. Hey,
but
you need
you're
an
talking
emergency plumbing job? Call a trainee to do it.
right. You're talking about in California how everyone's right leaning. I'm talking about how the trannies seemed like the majority view when it wasn't. And so again, there's a lot of people who do want to resist these things, but they are scared to do so because of the potential consequences, and they think they just have to keep their head down and keep getting by. That can change, right? We can shift that and make that majority view more visible. And the more visible it becomes, the more people are going to be comfortable with joining it, right? And
Dude,
so, like,
the
we
hard part with
already
that,
have the numbers, but everyone is so scared to do anything.
no, no,
And you
you
have to
have the
break that.
numbers.
And the
I
way you
don't think
break that
people are
fear is
scared.
by
I
taking these
think the
actions.
media, the mass media,
Absolutely,
like
they're scared.
CNN's, the major, like even YouTube shuts people down. The mass media has an
Right. So they're
agenda
scared of
where they
censorship. They're
they want
scared
to
of,
scare you. They're trying
right.
to scare you, and nobody's actually afraid. Like people do it out in public all the time. If you bring this up to somebody in person, they'll just start saying the craziest shit you've ever heard, like worse than Slav. And you're like, yeah, like, do we all believe that? Like, apparently we all do. But like the mass
Right. And so
media
that's
tries
why
to
it
shut
needs
this
to go public.
conversation down.
That's why it needs to go public, though, because again, there are a lot of people that feel this way, and
Most.
you seem bolder than most. Again, you're refusing jobs. Like that's something that a lot of these people who feel similarly to you
Well,
wouldn't
till you
do.
can't. I've had a few I had to. All right. I'm not gonna lie. There's a few where you're like,
Well,
all right. Yeah, I mean,
right, and there is a thing is picking your battles, right? It's like you can't pick every single battle. I do understand that, but there's far too many people that are picking no battles. There's far too many people that are just like, I never let
putting up
anyone know
any,
who I
yeah, you
believe
put up some kind of
in.
a front where you can. Like you said, put up posters, which I agree. Like there's a level everybody can do. There's a
Yes.
point of protesting you can do. It's like just find out
Yes.
in your life where you can accommodate it and still live a comfortable life. Because
Dude, I want to hug
you
you
can't
so
be
bad.
a paid protester out there like these Democrats do. They pay people to do it with your tax dollars, but you can just be a citizen paying taxes and still protest in your own way and let them know that the actual populace, like the actual majority of the world that we live in, the country we live in, doesn't agree with this shit. And somehow there's a cabal of people paying these brainwashed lunatics to go around and spout this nonsense, dude. It's fucking insane.
Right. Now, 2 points. One, I just want to thank you because, like, you clearly either are already on board with the things I'm saying or I've reached you. I don't know which. Either way, I want to hug you because
I've been this way since I was 11 years old, dog.
Yeah, so everything I just said is exactly what I've been trying to communicate, though, right? And the other point is that, like, yes, they do pay people to protest. This is organized. That's another thing to understand. Like, the left is genuinely organizing for war. This is not a joke, right? But also, they're paying people.
Why do you think we're at war right now? It's a war cabal, dude.
Absolutely, but like the left is paying people for those protests because it works, right? The people that are taking to the street, giving the government reason to take action, giving other people reason to think that that's the majority view, those things work. And the right.
What's sad is that that's an old world technology too. They're not even using the good manipulation of brainwashing that there's better ways to do the population into war than what they're doing now. So that's what really scares me is that they're using the lowest level of what they have. It's like, imagine what they could do if they actually wanted this to happen.
It can escalate, but the point I'm making is the same point I've made a dozen times already, which is that the right refuses to participate in those types of behavior, and those types of behavior are what shapes the world.
So what is the right? That's what I wanted to get with you, Goob. So what is the right? I don't think the right exists. The right and left are created by the cabal to fool the public into this sports game to where now it's right and left, and it's never about us. It's never about the population of people who are living our lives. We're just fighting over the right and left. What does the right and left even mean? Like, who is the right?
Yeah, no, I've talked about this a few times, right?
Like, Trump's not right.
No,
you know that. So who is right? Like, Massey's the most right, and one senator who's not even actually fully. He's pretty good, but there's still issues with that. They're not populist. Like, he's a populist for his state in a way, but it's like we don't have populists for the rest of the states. None of the other states have a populist representative who represents them.
Right. And I mean, this is what I was talking about with Slav. It's like, if you want who's actually going to represent your interests, you have to give them a reason to. You have to give them space to be able to do that, right? Someone who is on the right, and I'll get to what the right and left is in a second, they can't actually run a platform that would be America first, that would be, populist, that would be representing the interests of the American people, because
you get murdered.
There's no air for that to breathe right now. It can't exist. And so the right has to give a space for that to breathe. And they do that by taking action in the streets, right? But what is the right and the left? I've talked about this a few times, and I agree with what you're saying, right? And I've talked earlier about how, the right and the left ultimately basically have the same goal or leading us to the same place, just on slightly different timelines.
Who represents you in Congress?
When I'm using
who's your representative actually
in the left, for my state? You're saying who would I choose? Right? I don't know.
Because for me, both of them don't represent me. For me, my entire state, none of it represents my thoughts on the state, and most of the people I meet in the state, none of the people I meet in California agree with any of these people who are elected somehow. And we're like, how do they get elected if we don't agree with any of the things they say?
Right. So good points. And what I'm saying here about the right and the left is that, like, I'm not classifying Democrats and Republicans with left and right, but you have to have a term to discuss these things. And so, yes, you're making good points. But when I say right versus left, I guess, I mean,
I get
communist
it.
Satanists versus people who actually support America and who are wanting to, protect and preserve America.
Preserve the
But yeah,
Constitution, at least. Yeah.
I'm not talking about Democrat versus Republican, but you have to have a term to even discuss these things. And while it might not be the perfect term because it gets used in other ways and it's not necessarily entirely clear what I mean, like it's just because I have to have a term to discuss these things. And so like America people versus anti-America people is basically what I generally mean when I say right versus left. But your commentary on the Democrats and Republicans is accurate. And again, just the same point that like if you want someone who does want to protect and preserve America, you have to give them space to breathe. You have to give them room for a platform like that to bloom. And that can exist in this current environment. And the only way it can exist is if the right starts being more bold, more vocal, more visible with their radical America first beliefs. So, I say radical, but it's like the clip I played at the beginning of this were Democrats openly stating that they support illegal immigrants over American citizens. So supporting American citizens over illegal immigrants is now a radical position, right? And that shouldn't be a radical position, but it is. So be radical, be vocal, be visible, be unapologetically anti-immigrant, anti-invader, pro-American, pro-white. These are the sentiments that need to be visible in the world, because again, there already are a lot of people like you're talking about who do believe and support these things, but they're all keeping their head down and they're all under this illusion that the majority is actually against them when they're not.
I don't think a lot of them are keeping their head down, because I see a lot of people like they're vocal in real life and they talk about it. It's just the news doesn't cover them. Like the news doesn't poll them as a majority, and the news, when they do poll, they skew them. So like what people see online, what people see in the news isn't what you see in the real world. When you go out there and interact with people, if you actually ask them these questions, like, yeah, you might go to like where some of these grifters are going to, like college campuses and these specific places to find these people. Yeah, but if you go to the actual world and where people are, if you actually showed up to somebody's job site or where they're working, then you're like, yeah, no, like what the fuck, no. Like most of the country, I think, is on board with what we're talking. Even polling shows that, and they try and skew the polling, and they can't even skew it enough to make it look right, which is scary now. Like you can't even skew the polling enough. Like polling is the easiest thing to skew in the world. Just as somebody who knows math well, like you could easily skew that. Yes. Like, and you can't even get that correct. Like it's still showing a plus side. Like this is insane. Like populism is kind of winning. It's just the mass media, I don't think, is willing to show it, and they don't want to.
I don't even if we have the majority of people agree with us, which I think is
we do. I think we do.
I think it's and the only reason if you polled actual Americans, I think we definitely do. If you start counting the millions of
actual Americans, I think we'd hit in the 80s, 90s, dude.
Right. If you start polling everyone in America rather than just actual Americans, that number starts to drop pretty considerably. But absolutely, within Americans, we do have the majority. But I wouldn't say we're winning, because the left is still forging forward. The right is still staying.
You just negated all of Congress there, because they would say they're pro-Israel first. So you couldn't have those guys in that American citizenship vote. All of Congress is out.
Yeah. No, and another point, like Slav says we need to break the Jewish control, right? And another point that I made early in my videos is like, we can't take on Israel right now. We're currently controlled by Israel. That's blatant after, the Iran attacks that just happened, but it's been blatant for a long time. If
controlled how?
That Jewish control, like it starts on this smaller level. It starts with dealing with these radical Satanist, communist lefties. We have to bring our own population under control first before we can start dealing with foreign adversaries. So yes, they are the head of the snake, and it's like, oh, if you cut off the head of the snake, the problem's solved. One, I don't know if it's actually that simple, but two, we have no way to cut off the head of the snake when we have an entire government controlled by Israel, and we have, our entire population in chaos. We have to bring stability.
What's their form of control?
Well,
you say they control. What's the form of control? So for some reason they get funding from us. That's
right.
People are really calling for is cutting off the funding. So cut off the funding. What happens then? What does Israel do then? If they control our government, do they turn us into an apartheid state somehow, or what does Israel do?
No, I don't think so. That's the thing, is they have control in sneaky ways. They use blackmail. They use whatever they use to get Trump to launch that attack on Iran. Right, that was at the behest of Israel. And so, hello, puppy.
Puppy.
So,
sorry, I'm a dog lover. I'm not gonna rape your dog.
He's a cute boy. He's back there. I kind of lost my train of thought there for a second. Puppy distracted me, but
that's good, dude. That's what dogs are for.
But so how do they have control? Right. It's through money. It's through
blackmail.
It's through sneaky ways. So like,
but what if you just end all that?
Apartheid state. I don't think Israel has that kind of hard power to do that. They only have these soft techniques, which are extremely effective, right? But those soft techniques can be broken through what I've been describing, through the people getting more active, more vocal, more visible, because then those soft techniques no longer work. If you have a population calling for anti-Israel, people to be elected, you have the population calling for American first politicians and all of this stuff, right? They start to lose that soft control, and they don't have the hard power to just make us an apartheid state. And so if you want to, cut off the head of the snake that is Israel, the focus has to be first on bringing back sanity to our own population, bringing back reason. And the way to do that is, again, taking control of these power dynamics, shifting the Overton window, being more vocal, being more visible, being more bold.
Bringing back sanity to the libtards and the brainwashed masses that they created. How could you do that at this point? Like, that's, have you seen these people? Told you how.
People. So the first of all, the most liberal commie people, they're never going to have sanity brought back to them. There's a significant portion of the people that are just gone. They're a lost cause. They're some cause. But there is an even more significant portion of the people that are just wanting to get home from work without getting punched in the face or yelled at. And so there's a lot of people that, yes, you could bring back sanity to them, but they need to see that, the majority actually supports getting rid of immigrants. The majority actually supporting white people and white families and Western ideals. And right now,
get that on the mainstream.
Right now, that's not being shown.
Yeah, how do we show that to the people? Because that is the reality. Like, I see that when I go out and I even see people interacting, just driving to work. I'll see people interacting. I'm like, oh shit, there's like a hobo fight there, and it's like, oh no, it's just some leftist fighting with some fucking lunatic. Like.
Well, the way you already said how you do that, you find your comfort level, you find what you can do to incorporate these things into your daily life, right? And so whether that be making memes because you're good at making memes, like, use your talent, whether it be you're an artist like Vince and you want to make some propaganda posters and share those digital files with your friends, and you can all post
artist formerly known as Vince. Sorry.
Right. But you have to start exercising these things and start pushing your boundaries and start, expanding your boundaries. But do what you can. Not everyone can do everything. I don't expect everyone to wake up and just be the most radicalized, warrior ever. But like, you can start incorporating these things into your life, and you can start expanding what you incorporate into your life. My dog needs to go out. Unfortunately, he's having a bit of an episode, so hopefully it'll be just a minute. Can
we get a shot of the dog though, really quick? What kind of dog?
He's right there. He's not at the moment. He's struggling. I'll be back.
Okay.
entertain the audience.
Wait, am I? Oh shit! All right, guys. What do we talk about? Oh, I guess it's a sunny day out here. It's pretty nice. I broke a bunch of arrowheads shooting a 60-pound longbow because my backstop. I'll show you the backstop really quick. The hay bale. Hay bale got rotted out. So rotted out hay bale. So the arrows just shooting straight through it, right into the backstop, destroying my shed. And then I broke a bunch of arrowheads shooting into it with the 60-pound bow. So now I'm switching to the 35-pound for the backyard only. I'll bring 60 out to like the fucking field or something. I don't know. But a little too much for the backyard shooting, It's short range. It's like a fucking 25, 30-foot fucking shot. You can't be doing that in the fucking 60-pound bows.
All right, I'm back. Thank you.
And they were wide heads. Oh, good.
By the way,
sorry, I tried. I don't know what the chat said, but I tried.
I really do appreciate your call. It has been genuinely invigorating for me to hear that there are people that actually are implementing the things I'm suggesting. Really encouraging. I'm glad I'm not completely talking to a brick wall here. Because again, I'm just talking to a screen, so it can really feel that way sometimes.
Goob, we love you, dude. I love you, dude.
Yeah,
you're one of my favorite. You're one of my favorite streamers, dude.
Well, thank you. And but just as an aside, like I'm obviously not doing this for clout or for fame or to grow my audience like the stream last week. If that didn't get me shadow banned, I mean the chat got deleted during the live stream. This isn't for my own benefit. This is because we are facing an existential crisis and nothing else matters if this fight isn't won. It's as simple as that. And so I'm simply trying to reach the 20% like you that actually are a real human being that actually have agency. And I'm trying to get them to express that agency because that will encourage the rest of the 20% to start doing so. And then once we get a small minority, 10% or so that are actively and aggressively, expressing themselves, the rest of the sheep fall in line because then we dominate the power dynamics. And yes, I do believe that a large portion of these brainwashed people can be shifted quite easily to our side. And again, the most radicals, they're gone. They're gone. They're a sunk cost, right? But I do think in the same way that you have the majority perception supporting trannies, you can have the majority perception shift to supporting aggressive deportation and things like that. So thank you for your call, man. I appreciate it. If anyone else wants to call in, please do. Good chat. Talk to you later. So yeah, if anyone else has anything to say, go ahead and call in. Otherwise, it's already been an hour. I did have more things to show. I'll show this real quick because I just think it's kind of funny in a strange little white pill, if you will. It's not really a white pill. It's really a black pill. Where's my screens at? Okay, here we go. So, I was highlighting all of the black criminals that get released from jail early or never even go to jail. You can literally murder a baby and walk with zero time. But the good news is that if you want to be a white piece of shit as well, if you just want to fully embrace this criminal scum lifestyle, you too can get the same treatment from the legal system. He killed CEO Gret Glyer in his bed. He was sleeping next to his wife, shot 10 times, wrote a manifesto, and he gets an insanity plea, no prison time. This guy, the employee of Governor Tim Walz, who keyed 6 Teslas, causing over $20,000 in damage in retaliation against Elon Musk, has been given a 1-day suspension from his Minnesota government job. He's not even being prosecuted. So if you want to fully, I didn't share this tab instead. There we go. If you want to fully embrace the criminal scum lifestyle, you too can just do what you will and have absolutely no consequences as long as you're on the left side. It's not a white pill, it's a black pill, but I thought it was slightly humorous. I think it's good to incorporate a little bit of lightheartedness into these very, very serious topics. But yeah, if no one else wants to call in, I think that'll probably be the end of the stream. I do have a bunch of other things that I could show you to just try and hammer in the point even more, of how bad things are, how bad things are going to get, in the desperation, the absolute desperation of needing to start taking action now. You cannot wait till tomorrow. And if you're not, again, exactly like Dog Lover said, which is what I've been saying this whole time, find your comfort level, find your skills, right? So we do need elements in every, part of this. If you are a filmmaker and you can make some right-wing propaganda, do it. We need some good content. Every fucking TV show, everything's so left-wing and is so garbage. So it's like, whether you're just confronting an Antifa tranny on the street, or whether you're handing out flyers or posting up posters, or even if you're just making the posters and providing them for other people, do what you can do. Use your skills, find your comfort level, find other people who also are doing the same thing. Help create other people who are doing the same thing. That's why I'm making these streams. I'm desperately trying to reach the 20% who actually has the agency to take these actions, and encouraging them to do so, with the hopes that they will encourage even more people to do so, and even more people to do so. And then you have the snowball effect, right? That is what has to happen. Or else horrors you cannot imagine. Horrors you truly cannot imagine. So thank you for the calls, fellas. Thank you for watching. Give me a like, give me a subscribe. Again, this isn't not doing this for my own personal gain. I am doing this because it's what desperately needs to be done to save America. And I'm doing what I can. I'm using my skills, right, to do what I can. So peace out, fellas. Share it, like it, whatever. Thanks for watching.